GG fans, GojiFan93 here, and welcome to my revisit of Godzilla the game, also known as Godzilla PS3 or Godzilla PS4, or Godzilla Versus. This game has a lot of titles. Alright, so we've made it to the final Godzilla game in my backlog of games that I've played in the past and games that I have wanted to revisit. And yeah, we're going to end this on a big one. The probably biggest contentious or infamous Godzilla game that has released in the last decade, or even longer than that to be honest. Back in December of 2014, when the original PS3 Japanese version released, it was a very fun game. I'm not gonna lie, I'm already gonna come out of the gate saying that this game was actually really great on the PS3. And I remember that I actually imported the game from playasia.com and I was just super stoked to have a new Godzilla game at the time. Now, at the time, we didn't know it right away, but it was soon later when we discovered that the game was going to get a Western release on the PS4 as well, including a digital version for the PS3 store. And also other countries were going to get the game as well. But little did we know that this game was going to get slapped super hard by the mainstream gaming media places.
And that's just not worth all the yawns.
And that's the end of that miserable fucking shit. Godzilla, everyone. Have a terrible, terrible time with it.
It's hard to say if any of this was worth it.
The final verdict for Godzilla is a 2 out of 10!
Godzilla's poor graphics, uncomfortable controls, and overly repetitive gameplay make this one of the worst renditions of the King of Kaiju since he fought Matthew Broderick at Madison Square Garden back in '97.
Yeah, this game really did not impress the, what I would say, gaming journalisms of the mainstream audience. And I do feel that this game was highly judged way too harshly when it came out on the PS4. And I also believe that because of that, the game sort of lost its potential to have a sequel. And unfortunately, Toho pulled out of the game so quick that they delisted the game and they stopped printing copies, thus leaving the game in a very weird state where now on eBay, the game is considered rare. Now the game's going for insane prices, thanks to all the scalpers and people out there. Again, I'm gonna be the one to say that this game is not as bad as people say it is. Now, in revisiting this game, there were a few caveats. I don't own a PS4 anymore, and I don't own the game anymore. So how did I manage to play it? Well, I managed to find a PS3 emulator that managed to run the game sort of well. In my live stream, when I played it, I unfortunately ran into an issue where the game would stutter and lag so bad that the game would actually become unplayable. About halfway through my live stream, I sort of had to pull the plug and just sort of watch old videos. Oof. Oh hey, Super X is here. Oh gosh, we still got Mothra over here. Ugh. Okay. Ugh. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna try one more thing to fix this lag. But if it doesn't work, it's getting a little bit unplayable. Actually, I don't even know if that changed anything, because I don't know if I have to like leave the emulator, like exit and then come back or something, but this is unplayable. Oh my god. Okay. But in that short amount of time that I was able to replay the game on its PS3 version, it made me remember how fun the game was, and I got a flood of memories coming back to me. And even though there are things about this game that I do feel are not so great, I do feel that this game overall is a Godzilla fan's dream for a Godzilla game. And I remember making a video a couple years ago that I said, if I were to make a sequel to Godzilla on PS4, these are a few of the things that I would do to improve the game. So in this revisit/review, I'm gonna be using clips and audio from two previous videos. I'm gonna be making it from my Godzilla review that I made back in the day, and I'm also gonna be talking about some of the sequel potential that if I were in charge, I would also implement. Those two videos are gonna be linked in the description below if you wanna watch those original videos in their entirety. So, let's first off begin with the story mode.
Godzilla vs. does not have an epic story to tell. The game takes place 60 years after the Godzilla movie in 1954. Godzilla's back and he's feeding on G energy. It is more like a basic Godzilla plot. Godzilla comes ashore, the military tries to kill him, Godzilla destroys shit. That's pretty much the plot to this game. The characters are not that memorable, but they get their parts done.
In terms of the story mode, yeah, again, I remember that the game didn't have a huge story mode with it. Really, the campaign of the game was just the God of Destruction mode, where you go through, destroy the buildings, and yes, we have the meme, Godzilla's approaching the generator's losing power. Yes, I know.
The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power. Godzilla is approaching the generator. The generator is losing power.
And I'm not gonna lie, thanks to Angry Joe's review, that is probably one of the funniest memes that have come out of this game. But I will admit, the game definitely needed a more engrossed and developed story, I feel, in terms for a campaign.
Make a more involved campaign story that plays like a Godzilla movie with a real story and characters and events. I think what would be great is if we included more cutscenes of the characters doing things, and if there were more different complex cutscenes of the monsters doing things. I think with more development of the story, it can be a really intriguing campaign.
So as I stated, I feel like this game has a lot of potential in terms of a campaign. I really do feel like you can expand on this, have an actual cast of characters, sort of do what Unleashed was trying to do with its campaign, but, you know, have an actual really amazing cast of characters that you sort of grow attached to as they're monitoring Godzilla's destruction, and then continue to expand and develop the branching paths mode, and include also, again, what Unleashed was trying to do with all of these, you know, you can do a good side or a bad side or whatever, you have different multiple endings, and then you can also have monsters that randomly appear, and I feel like if they did that, the game would have had a better story mode. But yeah, in conclusion, the story mode of the game just really wasn't super developed and was very surface level in terms of a Godzilla game. Next, I want to talk about the graphics for the game. Now, again, this game, originally when it first came out, people weren't too impressed with the graphics. But again, I feel that the game looked pretty good for what it was.
The thing people are not realizing is that this is a PS3 game ported to a PS4. You're not getting a PS4 game, so don't expect PS4 graphics. The game has been upscaled to 1080p and running at a faster frame rate, which does make the game look better from the PS3 version. I will admit the environments and buildings could use a bit more work with textures, but you're not focusing on that when you're going around destroying them. The game has a spectacular explosion effect that mimics the classic movies. The lighting is pretty good, especially during the night stages. The best thing about this game's graphics are the monsters themselves. Bandai Namco made a good effort to make the monsters look and move just like in the movies. The thing about this game is it's not about how the graphics look, it's about having fun, feeling like an unstoppable beast destroying everything in your path.
This was a budget title on the PS3 originally. So it really wasn't even going to match up to games that even came out on the PS4 at the time, or even on the PS3. This was not a AAA development game. And as a few of the statements that I made in the video, in my review back in the day, this game, I think people took it way too far with, you know, shit talking the graphics. Yes, I will admit, again, the textures on some buildings and environments really didn't look that good, but really where it mattered, I feel, was the monster designs and also the special effects, and everything that happened in it just looked fantastic. And I feel like that's what made this game sort of appealing to me and also a lot of other Godzilla fans out there. But yeah, according to a lot of mainstream gamers and journalists, yeah, this game of course wasn't going to stack up in terms of graphics. And then what I said in terms of potential for a sequel, again, having it be on a modern engine like Unreal or something would just make the game look so cool.
Obviously, since this is on new gen hardware, the graphics would be amazing, and I think I would choose the game to be on the Unreal Engine 5. I would also take a cue from the devs and how they use some of the SH Monster Arts figures to model the characters in the game. But I would take this a step further and use X Plus figures to design the character models.
I really feel like if Toho took the time and made actual really great models with the Unreal Engine, super realistic environments, super realistic effects, oh my god, this game would it would look so great. Now, like any game, of course, the biggest thing is the gameplay. But before I get to that, I also want to talk about the music and the sound effects. And again, the music and sound effects in this game, I feel, are 100% top notch. I can't honestly see anything wrong in terms of the audio department with the presentation and anything like that. The original soundtrack to this game is fantastic, and I love listening to the soundtrack on its own, really. And the tracks that do include original Toho tracks from Akira Fukube and all that are super awesome too. The danger level rises, they actually have those like, military marches play or anything like that. Like, it gets you so into the game when those music parts play. And the sound effects for the game are also fantastic. All the characters have their authentic roars and the, special beam sound effects and destruction sound effects. It all is amazing. So now let's move on to gameplay. Now, this is the biggest component of the game, and I feel this is the biggest thing that people misunderstood about this Godzilla game, is the gameplay. I'm gonna say it right now, and I've said it before in the past. This game is not a fighting game. It is not supposed to be a fighting Godzilla game. People were hoping that this was gonna be like another Pipeworks game, but it's just simply not. This game is a Godzilla simulator game. That is what this is. It is basically a spiritual successor to the Godzilla Generation game back on the Dreamcast. You go around destroying buildings and upgrading Godzilla as you go. And there's a lot of cool things in the game that I like that are just little bits and pieces that go through the gameplay. You have your destruction rate, which means you just have to destroy all the buildings that are on the map, again, akin to Godzilla Generations. You have these little areas on the map that you got to run to that take like snapshots of you, and there are these really cool cinematic angles, but in doing so helps you like with your percentage run. And then defeating other kaiju gets you these energy cells or these evolution credits where you get to then upgrade Godzilla to have different beam attacks, better moves, like where you can do that dancing move, like that's really cool. So you can sort of upgrade Godzilla as you play through the game.
Now, this is the biggest component to any video game, and where it has many hating it or loving it. The game has many options for you to play. First off, we have God of Destruction mode, which is the game's main mode. In this mode, you have three options: go ashore, invade, and defend. First, let's talk about the main campaign mode, go ashore. This is the original mode from the PS3 version where you play only as Godzilla, going through stages, destroying the generators to absorb G energy. You begin as a 50-meter Godzilla and must destroy as many things as possible to grow in size and power. Destroying things such as buildings, tanks, helicopters, and the generators gives you the points to grow. What I personally love about this mode is the more you destroy, the more aggressive the military gets. You can see this by the disaster level on the bottom of the screen. When the bar reaches max, the Prime Minister will raise the disaster level and bring bigger weapons to take you out. What's really cool is the disaster level gets maxed out and they start to send the Super X after you. The other mode, Invasion, is basically the same as Go Ashore, except you can play as the other kaiju in the game. So far, this is the best mode in the game, as it allows you to play your favorite monsters. Defend mode is being able to play as the mecha monsters or the good guy monsters, to defend the generators from the enemy kaiju. It's not the best mode, and it's by far the easiest to beat. I managed to get all gold stars with each kaiju on that mode. The other mode outside of God of Destruction is called King of Kaiju, and this is your somewhat arcade mode where you go around through 6 stages and fighting randomized kaiju. This mode is fun at first, but it can get a bit repetitive, especially when they throw the same monster at you every time you play the mode. I can't tell you how many times I fought against Showa Mechagodzilla. The other modes in the game are Evolution, Diorama, and Online Multiplayer. In the Evolution screen, this is where you unlock upgrades for the monsters by playing the main game to get parts for the monsters you defeat. It's sometimes tedious because most of the time the kaiju you want to upgrade will be rare to fight and making it hard to get the upgrades for him. Diorama mode is a fun little pastime where you place figures you unlock in the Evolution screen and put them in a setting and take pictures. It's fun, but I can't see myself playing this mode for hours.
And then the biggest thing is that if you play the game on the hardest difficulty, if you follow the hard difficulty path, you then, if you do everything correctly, you get to be 100 meters and at the very end play as Burning Godzilla fighting Godzilla 2014. It's like one of the coolest endings to the game. And then for the PS4 version, one of the differences are also different game modes. In the PS3 version, you really only had God of Destruction and King of Kaiju. And King of Kaiju was really just the versus mode. Again, a very, very simplistic fighting mechanic of the game where, you just have your basic slash attacks with the tail attacks. You have a couple special abilities, but it's not something that's fast action like the Atari Pipeworks games. You're gonna get slow movement, big monsters fighting. That's the style of the game. But on the PS4 version, what you get is you actually get a few other modes. You get this other mode where you get to play as the defenders. You get to play as like the GDF in terms of like Jet Jaguar. You get to play as Kiryu, Mechagodzilla, Mecha King Ghidorah, the human side of things, and it's sort of this inverted campaign compared to Godzilla destroying everything. So in this way, you actually have to defend the city, which I thought was really cool. And that was another thing I wanted to expand on in terms of making a sequel to the game where, you know, again, you can follow that cast of characters and have them actually make a story where you're defending Tokyo from Godzilla.
We need to expand each mode. We need a bigger campaign mode, and that includes, like I said, a better story. We need two sides of the campaign, because like in the original game, we had the monster side where you played as them destroying the generators, and then you also had the other side where you played as the humans defending the generators. This can give a cool dynamic of the campaign where there's two sides to it. So we'll call one side the Destroyers campaign, where you play as the kaiju, and then you'll have the Defenders campaign, where you play as the mechas. The next mode we need to expand on is the arcade ladder. We need more stages, more than 6. I would say maybe 10 or 12. Mixed with these modes though, we need some fun extras like Mortal Kombat's Test Your Might or Save the Earth's Challenge mode.
Another difference between the PS3 and PS4 version is the fact that you can play as other monsters on the PS4 version. In the PS3 version, I believe the only thing you can play as is Godzilla, Burning Godzilla, and Godzilla 2014. But on the PS4 version, you can literally play every character that was featured in the game, either version. And again, even though the controls and the gameplay felt sluggish and everything, I do feel like that helps the presentation and it sort of helps what the game was trying to do in the first place. It was trying to make you feel like Godzilla. In the Pipeworks game, you don't necessarily feel like Godzilla because you're jumping around, you're doing all these karate moves and everything. It's not a simulator, but this game was like the game that made you feel like the king of the monsters. And to be honest, to me, I would love to see another crack at this style of Godzilla game for the future of Godzilla games. I also want to take some time to talk about a little bit of the controls with the game. Again, replaying the game, it was like I instantly got the controls back. I feel like this game, again, a lot of people misunderstood that this game was supposed to be a fast action, snappy kind of game, but no, the controls I feel are a little sluggish on purpose.
The controls in the game are unique. You control your monsters by moving them forward, backward, and to strafe left or right using the left analog stick. You then have to turn the monster left or right by hitting L1 and R1. This at first feels very odd, but I got used to it super quick. The tank controls make you feel like you really are a huge monster walking around, and I like that. When it comes to attacking, you have 4 main ways of attacking. Square is your light attack, triangle is your heavy attack, circle is your beam or ranged attack, and the X button is used mostly as a charge or rush attack. These can be combined to make some devastating combos. You can also hit both L2 and R2 to unleash your special attack when the temperature meter is full. Another thing you can do is you can hit L1 and R1 at the same time to roar, which powers up your beam attacks. This can also act as a block move because, unfortunately, there is no block button. Some monsters move slower or faster than others, but I like how authentic they are with each kaiju. All the kaiju feel different, which is a great thing.
It's kind of like those people that talk about the old Resident Evil games and saying that the tank controls actually helped the gameplay in making it more scary. Well, I feel like this game, having those tank control styles in this game where you sort of strafe Godzilla and then turn him by using the triggers and then having the face buttons be all the attacks, I feel like that was the best way to make you feel like a giant monster. So I don't really have a problem with the controls in this game, to be honest. The other thing I want to talk about is the PS4 game, the PS4 version in terms of its multiplayer. This is the side of the game that I feel was the weakest and the part of the game that I rarely would play because it was so broken and unbalanced.
Sadly, this is hands down the worst part of the game, which is a shame because we have not had a Godzilla game with multiplayer since Godzilla Saved the Earth back in 2004. It's great to have 3 monsters fight in one area, but that doesn't save this mode. The reason this mode is forgettable and tacked on without any thought is because it's so unbalanced. What happens is you can transfer your kaiju's upgrades into this mode, but the issue is that there is no matchmaking option. The game picks players at random, where you will be put up against a higher level than you, and 9 times out of 10 you will lose, just because that other player has upgraded whichever kaiju to the max. This mode seriously needs a matchmaking system where I can set up a server to invite players to fight against me. It needs an option to set rank levels so that beginners fight against beginners and advanced players fight against only advanced players.
I will admit, this part of the game was very bad, very poorly executed, and I feel like it was sort of a just slapped together thing because they're like, oh, they feel like they have to put a multiplayer mode just because of the way gaming is nowadays. And I elaborate further on my opinions on the multiplayer, which haven't changed since my review. And then I also talk about some of the things that I feel could be improved with the multiplayer in my sequel video.
We also need a complete revamp of the multiplayer suite. We need different playlists. We need a social playlist, a rank playlist. We need to also give some more customization. We need a 1v1, 2v2, 4v4, and even a chaos mode I think would be awesome. If it was like an 8v8 with unlocked abilities for all players, so it was just complete madness. There needs to be leaderboards, and one of the biggest things is matchmaking. Matchmaking was in the original game, but it was so unbalanced. And there also needs to be a game browser for maybe some potential cool custom modes.
So to conclude with this game, again, I feel that my points that I made in my review, and then also a few ideas that I had in my sequel video, and then including this revisit video, I feel like, again, I want to state that I feel this game was judged unfairly, and I hope that in the future, people will look at this game more fondly as time goes on. And overall, this game was made by people who really cared about the Godzilla license. I really feel that the devs behind this game were Godzilla fans, and they did everything they could to make this game as faithful to the license as possible. Yes, I do admit that there are some things about this game that haven't held up, or even when the game came out was a little crappy, I'll admit. But I think overall, I would love to see this game either get remastered or ported to different consoles because of the whole delisting and game being super expensive now, or this game just gets a flat out sequel, or just a new Godzilla game that takes components of this game, or maybe takes components of the Pipeworks games and this game and mixes them together to make something truly awesome. There's a lot of hope I have for this style of Godzilla game, and I feel like too many people are focusing so much on the fighting games, which is not a problem. I too am very much excited about future Godzilla games in terms of fighting, but I really also think that there's a place where Godzilla can be in the gaming sphere where you can actually have that simulator style where you're just going through destroying buildings and fighting other monsters that isn't a, Street Fighter style of fighting. But that's really it. That's my thoughts on the game, and to be honest, my thoughts haven't changed in 10 years since playing this game. When it first came out on the PS3, I cannot believe it's almost been 10 years. I still think this game is great. And even though I wasn't able to fully play it when I did my live stream for it, it instantly brought back fun memories, and I desperately wish I still had my PS4 in the game. But during the live stream, I did talk to Godzilla fan freaks, and we did say that the next time we would meet up, we actually would do a live stream of the PS4 game together. So there is a future possibility where I will still come back to this game even later. So that's it, guys. That's it for my revisit for this game. Again, if you want to see those other videos in their full entirety, please look in the description below. Also, the bubbles that are on the video, I left them in there as well. Hopefully with this revisit and then those reviews and my other sequel video, that you guys get a really good understanding of this game and how I feel about it. So that's really it for me, guys. Please post in the comments below what you guys think of this game. I would love to read your comments, and let's start a discussion. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay big, G fans.